The Greenland crisis has exposed a geopolitical fault line that threatens to reshape the global order more dramatically than any event since the Cold War's end. What initially appeared as diplomatic posturing has escalated into a full-scale crisis that has brought NATO to the brink of collapse. The European Parliament's unprecedented decision to suspend the annual $1.7 trillion trade framework with the United States represents the most significant rupture in transatlantic relations since World War II. This isn't ordinary diplomatic tension or temporary policy disagreement. This represents fundamental breakdown in Western alliance structures that have underpinned global stability for over 7 decades. Understanding the magnitude of this crisis requires examining what Greenland actually represents in terms of global strategic assets and why its control has become central to great power competition. Greenland contains approximately 25% of the world's rare earth element reserves, materials essential for modern technology including smartphones, electric vehicles, wind turbines, and advanced military systems. These resources have become increasingly critical as global supply chains face disruption and nations seek strategic independence from Chinese rare earth dominance. The Arctic dimension adds another layer of strategic importance because climate change has opened new shipping routes that could revolutionize global commerce. The Northwest Passage through Arctic waters could reduce shipping times between Asia and Europe by up to 40% compared to traditional routes through the Suez Canal. Control over Arctic transit routes provides enormous economic leverage while enabling military positioning that affects global naval balance. Greenland's geographic position makes it the gateway to these Arctic opportunities. The crisis began when diplomatic communications revealed American intentions to pursue Greenland acquisition through means that European leaders characterized as coercive and threatening. Internal documents suggest the United States considered economic pressure, military positioning, and trade relationship manipulation to achieve Greenland transfer from Danish sovereignty. These revelations shattered European assumptions about American respect for Allied sovereignty and international law principles. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen's response reflected broader European outrage at what was perceived as imperial behavior toward a NATO ally. Her statement that Greenland was not for sale under any circumstances triggered escalating American pressure that included threats to reconsider NATO commitments and bilateral trade relationships. This escalation pattern violated fundamental alliance principles based on mutual respect and consultation rather than coercion between partners. The European Parliament's trade suspension decision came after emergency sessions where members expressed unprecedented anger at American behavior toward European sovereignty. The $1.7 trillion annual trade framework encompasses everything from agricultural products to advanced technology, automotive exports, pharmaceutical research, and financial services. Suspending this trade relationship affects millions of jobs and thousands of companies across both continents while disrupting supply chains that have developed over decades. The economic implications extend far beyond immediate trade disruption because the suspended framework includes regulatory cooperation, intellectual property agreements, and joint research programs that facilitate innovation and technological development. European companies lose access to American markets while American firms face barriers to European operations. These disruptions create opportunities for Asian competitors to capture market share in both regions, while Western companies struggle with fragmented access. NATO's institutional crisis reflects deeper problems than simple policy disagreements between allies. The alliance structure depends on trust, consultation, and shared decision-making processes that require American leadership balanced with European partnership. When the United States threatens military action or economic coercion against allies to achieve strategic objectives, it undermines the fundamental trust relationships that make collective security possible. The psychological impact on European security planning cannot be overstated because NATO's Article 5 mutual defense guarantee becomes meaningless if alliance members cannot trust American intentions toward their sovereignty. If the United States considers coercing Denmark over Greenland, European defense planners must question whether America would honor defense commitments during future crises. This uncertainty destroys alliance cohesion while encouraging individual nations to develop alternative security arrangements. French President Emmanuel Macron's call for European strategic autonomy has gained significant support as European leaders recognize their vulnerability to American policy changes. Germany has accelerated defense spending while exploring European defense integration that reduces dependence on American military capabilities. Italy and Spain have initiated discussions about Mediterranean defense cooperation independent of NATO structures. These developments represent fundamental shifts away from Atlantic partnership toward European self-reliance. The rare earth element dimension creates particularly complex strategic calculations because global supply chains depend heavily on Chinese production and processing capabilities. China controls approximately 90% of global rare earth processing despite other nations possessing substantial reserves. Greenland's rare earth deposits could provide Western nations with alternative supply sources that reduce Chinese leverage over critical technology sectors. However, developing Greenland's rare earth resources requires massive infrastructure investment, environmental considerations, and technical expertise that few nations possess. China has offered development partnerships that would provide capital and technical knowledge while maintaining Chinese influence over resulting supply chains. European nations face choices between accepting Chinese partnership or attempting independent development with uncertain success prospects. The Arctic shipping route competition adds urgency to Greenland's strategic importance because climate change continues opening new navigation possibilities. Russia has invested heavily in Arctic military capabilities and infrastructure development that provides advantages in northern shipping route control. China has declared itself a near-Arctic nation and seeks shipping access that reduces dependence on traditional maritime choke points controlled by Western naval forces. American military planners view Arctic control as essential for maintaining global naval supremacy and containing both Russian and Chinese expansion into new strategic areas. Greenland provides optimal positioning for Arctic military bases, while enabling surveillance and interdiction capabilities across northern shipping routes. Loss of Greenland access would substantially reduce American ability to project power into Arctic regions where great power competition is intensifying. The economic warfare implications of trade suspension create cascading effects throughout global financial markets and supply chain networks. American agricultural exports to Europe face immediate disruption, while European luxury goods, automotive products, and industrial equipment lose American market access. These disruptions affect not only direct trade relationships, but also financial services, insurance, logistics, and support industries that facilitate transatlantic commerce. Technology sector implications deserve particular attention because American and European companies have developed integrated research and development partnerships that accelerate innovation in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, renewable energy, and advanced manufacturing. Trade suspension disrupts these partnerships while creating regulatory barriers that prevent continued collaboration. Asian technology companies benefit from reduced Western coordination, while American and European firms face increased costs and slower innovation cycles. The financial services disruption affects global banking relationships because European and American financial institutions provide services across both markets through integrated systems developed over decades. Regulatory cooperation agreements that facilitate international banking face suspension, while cross-border investment frameworks experience uncertainty. These disruptions increase transaction costs and reduce capital flow efficiency between the world's two largest economic regions. China's strategic position improves dramatically as Western alliance cohesion deteriorates and economic integration faces disruption. Chinese trade relationships with both Europe and America gain relative importance when transatlantic trade faces barriers. European nations seeking alternatives to American partnerships increasingly consider Chinese options in technology, infrastructure, and trade finance areas. This creates opportunities for China to expand influence within Western alliance systems. The Belt and Road Initiative gains renewed relevance as European nations reconsider infrastructure development partnerships and trade route alternatives. Chinese investment in European ports, transportation networks, and communication systems provides strategic positioning that benefits from reduced American-European coordination. European dependence on Chinese supply chains increases when American alternatives become politically complicated or economically unavailable. Chinese rare earth leverage increases when Western nations cannot coordinate alternative supply development due to political disagreements. If America and Europe cannot cooperate on Greenland resource development, China maintains dominant position in critical materials while potentially gaining access to Greenland resources through separate agreements with European partners. This scenario provides China with enhanced technology sector influence, while Western nations remain dependent on Chinese supplies. The military balance implications extend beyond immediate Arctic considerations to affect global strategic positioning and alliance capabilities. NATO's collective defense capabilities rely on integrated command structures, shared intelligence, and coordinated military planning that require political trust and cooperation. When alliance members cannot trust each other's political intentions, military cooperation suffers while adversaries benefit from Western disunity. European defense industry development accelerates when American partnership becomes unreliable or politically complicated. France's defense technology sector benefits from increased European demand for alternatives to American weapons systems. Germany's defense manufacturing capabilities expand to serve European markets previously supplied by American companies. These changes create more competitive global defense markets while reducing American defense industry influence. The space technology sector faces similar disruption as European space agencies reconsider cooperation agreements with American counterparts. Satellite networks, space exploration programs, and commercial space development projects all depend on international cooperation that becomes complicated when broader political relationships deteriorate. China's space capabilities benefit from reduced Western coordination, while European and American programs face increased costs and reduced capabilities. Energy security implications affect both immediate supply arrangements and longer-term transition planning toward renewable energy systems. American liquefied natural gas exports to Europe face political complications, while European renewable energy technology faces barriers in American markets. These disruptions create opportunities for other suppliers while increasing energy costs and reducing energy security for both regions. The climate change cooperation dimension suffers when political disagreements prevent coordination on environmental policies and clean technology development. Global climate goals require American and European cooperation on carbon reduction, clean energy technology, and international climate finance. Political breakdown reduces cooperation effectiveness while making global climate objectives more difficult to achieve. International law implications extend beyond immediate trade and alliance considerations to affect broader global governance structures. When major powers ignore international law principles in pursuing strategic objectives, it undermines international institutions and encourages other nations to adopt similar approaches. This erosion of international legal frameworks affects global stability while creating uncertainty about rules governing international relationships. The United Nations system faces stress when permanent Security Council members cannot cooperate on major international issues. American-European disagreement over Greenland and broader alliance questions affects UN effectiveness while providing opportunities for other powers to fill leadership gaps. China and Russia benefit from Western disunity within international organizations while pursuing their own strategic objectives with reduced Western resistance. Regional alliance systems face uncertainty when the foundational transatlantic partnership experiences crisis. Asian allies must reconsider security partnerships when American reliability comes into question, while European partners develop alternative arrangements. These changes affect global security architecture while creating opportunities for revisionist powers to challenge existing international order. The economic development implications affect not only immediate trade relationships, but also longer-term innovation and competitiveness considerations. American and European economies have benefited from integrated markets, shared research, and complementary industrial capabilities that accelerate economic development. Political breakdown reduces these benefits while increasing costs and reducing global competitiveness for both regions. Developing nations face difficult choices when major powers cannot cooperate on development assistance, trade policy, and international economic coordination. Chinese development assistance and trade relationships become more attractive when Western alternatives involve political complications or reduced cooperation. This shift affects global development patterns while extending Chinese influence throughout developing regions. The information warfare dimension intensifies as political breakdown creates propaganda opportunities for adversaries while reducing Western coordination on information security and media cooperation. Russian and Chinese information operations benefit from Western disunity, while American and European counter-information efforts face reduced coordination and effectiveness. Cultural and educational exchange programs suffer when political relationships deteriorate and create barriers to academic cooperation, student exchanges, and cultural programs. These soft power relationships have historically strengthened Western alliance bonds while providing alternatives to authoritarian influence. Reduced cultural exchange creates opportunities for other nations to expand cultural influence, while Western cultural cooperation declines. The technology standard-setting implications affect global technology development and adoption patterns. American and European cooperation on technology standards has historically provided Western influence over global technology development. Political breakdown reduces coordination effectiveness while creating opportunities for Chinese technology standards to gain international acceptance through reduced Western cooperation. Democratic governance implications extend beyond immediate alliance considerations to affect global democracy promotion and authoritarian resistance efforts. Western democratic cooperation has provided support for democratic movements and institutions worldwide while resisting authoritarian expansion. Political breakdown reduces democratic cooperation effectiveness, while authoritarian powers face less coordinated resistance to their expansion efforts. The crisis timeline suggests accelerating deterioration rather than diplomatic resolution as positions harden, and economic disruptions create political pressures that discourage compromise. European public opinion increasingly views American behavior as imperial and threatening, while American public opinion sees European responses as ungrateful and short-sighted. These public opinion trends make diplomatic resolution more difficult while encouraging political leaders to adopt increasingly confrontational positions. The long-term implications suggest fundamental changes in global order structure regardless of immediate crisis resolution. Even if diplomatic agreements resolve immediate tensions, underlying trust relationships have suffered damage that affects future cooperation while encouraging all parties to develop alternative arrangements that reduce dependence on partners viewed as unreliable. This analysis examines observable political developments and their potential implications, rather than advocating for specific policy responses or predicting exact outcomes. Geopolitical crises involve complex interactions between multiple actors with unpredictable consequences that can exceed initial expectations. Understanding these dynamics provides context for evaluating current developments, while recognizing that international relationships remain subject to unexpected changes that can alter global order in ways that challenge existing assumptions about stability and cooperation.